Hello Game Gumshoes fans, Chris here with another edition of Game Gumshoes Presents. Today I'll be covering Snake Oil by Out of the Box Games. I did write a written review on this in the past. The thing is, when I wrote the review for it, it was in the process of being transferred from one owner to the next. And so I thought that maybe I would do a side-by-side comparison of the two. The game's called Snake Oil. In its original form, it looked like this, and in the out-of-the-box version, it looked like this. And as you'll see as I'm showing you the cards, there have been some slight tweaks in the way that things are set up. Now I have to admit, as far as packaging is concerned, I prefer the old style over the new style, because the old style was like this. Plain and simple. You have customer cards, and you have your word cards. When you're playing this game, think of, say, Apples to Apples, Cards Against Humanity, things like that, where you're trying to get someone to judge on whether or not you pick the best possible combination for whatever their thing is. Now, the out-of-the-box version of the box looks like this. Now normally I like stuff that's compartmentalized and stuff, but in this case I don't. Just because even with the lid on the box, because there are no paper rules on the top to keep all the cards in place, if you travel with games around like I do, your cards are going to get shifted and they're going to be scattered all over the place. You open the box, you'll have stuff falling out on the floor. But that's just me. And the main reason I see for the change in the size is the customer cards. To give you some idea about Snake Oil, I don't know if you've ever heard, and depending on which box you read, there are different stories on Snake Oil. But, you know, in the early 1900s, there were men that went around selling various tonics and elixirs and stuff like that. They cure all ails. These guys were generally called snake oil salesmen because, you know, they were honest, or dishonest, and tried to lead you to believe that their product did actually work. The boxes, in and of itself, have a story. So, on this box, it's right here, where it lists, you know, in the Wild West, this is what this is. Now here on this box is the history of snake oil, and or at least snake oil salesmen and actual snake oil products. The nice thing about both boxes is you don't have a rule book, because your rules are along here, along here, along here, and just more general information. The older box, very similar. You have your instructions here, extra rules options here, which aren't exactly, there are 2 extra rules options on the new one, but yeah. Now the game is 4 to 9 players, and ages 13 and up. Now I can kind of see that, just because when playing it in the groups, we found that you could get a little bit racy, just a little bit. But then again, you could do the same thing with Apples Against Apples, or Apples to Apples, and Cards Against Humanity. Well, if that's not racy, nothing else is. But anyhow, the reason for the change in the boxes, as far as I can tell, is that the customer cards went from looking like this to looking like this. Actually, these are both the police officers. Now, you may have seen it because of my slip, but this one, actually, the new one, has 2 customers per card, whereas this one's just got the logo on the back. I did like this because it kept them separate, because if you're going from this is your word card, this is your customer card, you could kind of tell the difference in size. Now, with the new Snake Oil, yes, it's got the pretty little back and everything, but the cards are the same exact size. The main thing separating the 2 cards is the fact that This one actually has a back, and this one's just 2 characters. Overall, the card quality is, yeah, it could be better, but, you know, when you're mass producing and it's a party game, you don't want to put, you know, expensive cards in there because, you know, that drives up the cost, and then if the game gets ruined, people are less likely to buy a new copy of it because it's too expensive. Now, the basic way this game plays is you have you and your group of friends. You want at least 3 players, and I have to admit, the more the merrier. When we were doing it, we had anywhere between 5 and 7 players. Basically, everybody starts off with a minimum of 6 cards. They do have alternate rules for 8 and 10 card versions. And when I say that, each player gets a hand of 6 of the word cards. Word cards if you're using that version. So your first person to play gets to be the snake oil, or the customer. And they want to be, or they're the police officer. So all players, and in this example I have 2 players worth of cards, they're each going to try to look through their hands of 6 cards and determine what they think would be the best product to sell their police officer customer. Now, when you've picked out your 2 words, you play your cards down, and then once everybody's done, depending on which rule set you're using, you actually go through the trouble of reading off your little thing and doing your 30-second pitch. They recommend doing the actual construction of your product with your 2 words in 30 to 40 seconds, which it's very quick. There's no timer to keep track of it, but you know, it should be fairly quick and simple. I do admit that there are some times where we have hands where you're like, you know, there's just not a good option. But most of these kind of games are like that, depending on how you play. Now, player 1 has decided that because their police officer is such a valiant officer but needs to be defended when he's out on the streets handling criminals, that he would want to take with him the amazing water wall. Now, the amazing water wall, you throw it down and it becomes a giant wall of water protecting you from bullets and shrapnel thrown at you from various, you know, protesters and what have you. And so the police officer gets to think about that. But the next player comes along and it says, well, you know what, in this day and age, I think every cop should have a photo vest. Yes, you want a photo vest. You wear it on your person and it is constantly taking photographs of everything that is going on around you. That way, you're covered if something, if someone says that you did something to them that you didn't actually do. And then me, as a police officer, would say, okay, well, we've got cameras on everything, so I don't know that the photo vest. But if I could have a wall of water that would protect me from, you know, things being hurled at me, I think I'll go with that. So in this case, the water wall would win the customer card, and it would go to them. And you basically keep doing that until everyone in the round gets a turn at being the customer. At that point, you determine who has won the most customer cards, and they are the winner. If there is a tie, which can happen and does happen, you basically play one more round between the 2 tied people, and the next person in line, number 3, they actually get to be the customer. So, you know, somebody's going to win one way or the other, and it only takes however many rounds you've got players. But that's Snake Oil, and hopefully you take time to pick up a copy, go to your local game store, see if they have a copy. Maybe you can play it there at the store. I know next week I'll be taking it with me to my local comic book store to play with the guys some more, just to see, you know, if a different mix of people can have different results. But like I said, that's Snake Oil. I'll be posting the review down below. Please subscribe and like us on Facebook, and thank you for joining us. This is Chris with Game Gumshoes.